Colleagues, before we begin my first question period, please treat me like that new car and don't give it a dent on the first day. Questions orales.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We'll keep the car on the right side of the road, Mr. Speaker. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this Prime Minister, we see the cost of living going up. The National Payroll Institute has indicated that 63% are spending all their paychecks, and 30% of Canadians are spending more than their pay every month. This is a national emergency. Will the government finally refund the taxes they've charged so that Canadians can keep their homes and feed themselves? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. We hear the concerns of Canadians and we are taking action. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that thousands of new homes are built thanks to our scrapping of the GST on new construction. We're creating thousands of good jobs for the middle class, and we're taking care of the environment with projects like the Northvolt factory in Quebec. We're also taking action to stabilize grocery prices, and we will continue to work every day to make Canadians' lives more affordable. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. This Prime Minister is not worth the cost. He has increased taxes and inflationary deficits that are causing food prices to rise. And last month, he announced amid great fanfare that he was going to take action by Thanksgiving to bring down prices. But now we're realizing that it can cost up to $100 for a turkey. Will he reduce the cost of turkey before Thanksgiving in 6 days? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, a number of weeks ago, our Minister of Innovation brought together the CEOs of the major grocery chains to talk about how we're going to stabilize food prices for Canadians. This is work that we will keep working on to make sure that Canadians can afford groceries this weekend and for all weekends to come. At the same time, we're taking steps like we did with the grocery rebate, like we did with childcare subsidies, and we will always be there to help make life more affordable for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Is not worth the cost. According to the National Payroll Institute, there is a, quote, financial storm gathering. They also describe it as a national emergency, as 63% of Canadians are spending their entire paycheck, and 30%, are spending more than their paycheck, forced to eat up their savings or go into debt. Will the Prime Minister reverse his inflationary debt and taxes so that Canadians can eat, heat, and house themselves?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
So we shouldn't be investing to have Canadians' backs through the pandemic, that we shouldn't be there for families. And they continue to say we shouldn't be sending low and middle income Canadians support to send their kids to the dentist. We're going to continue to be there for Canadians because we know people are facing challenging times because of the global context. That's why we're building thousands more homes by cutting the GST on construction of new apartments. We're creating thousands of good middle class jobs and cleaning our environment with projects like Northvolt in Quebec. And we're making life more affordable for Canadians by working to stabilize grocery prices and having delivered the grocery rebate. We've got lots more to do, and we're going to keep doing it for Canadians.
Hear, hear.
Please don't keep doing anything he's doing, Mr. Speaker. In fact, he talks about grocery prices. A month ago, he held a big photo op where he claimed that he would stabilize grocery prices before Thanksgiving. Well, the news is out that a Thanksgiving turkey now costs as much as $120 for one. Wow. Mr. Speaker, it is now 6 days until Thanksgiving. Will the Prime Minister promise to bring the price of turkey back down to normal levels before people eat the turkey on Monday?
I I would like to remind members to please wait until the speaker has recognized them before starting your answer or asking your question. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A number of weeks ago, our Minister of Industry brought together the heads of all the large grocery chains in Canada to address directly the challenges that Canadians facing around high food prices. It is not right that Canadians be as squeezed as they are right now, and that's why we're taking action. We continue to also take action on investing in housing as Canadians need more and more supply, which is why we've eliminated the GST on new rental construction, why we've incentivized communities to move forward on greater densification. We're continuing to respond to the needs of Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That wasn't his promise. His promise wasn't to have meetings and to read off talking points. His promise was an affordable Thanksgiving. Well, Thanksgiving is now 6 days away, and turkeys are going for $120, Mr. Speaker. $120 at some outlets. Canadians cannot afford to eat, heat, or house themselves. So can he tell us, given that it was his promise to create an affordable Thanksgiving dinner, how much will that dinner cost an average family of 4 this Monday? How much?
Le très honorable Premier Ministre.
Mr. Speaker, as we've seen consistently, Canadians are facing real challenges. That is why we have consistently stepped up with measures to support Canadians, whether it's bringing in a reduction of 50% on childcare, which Conservatives campaigned against, that has saved thousands of dollars a year to many families, whether it's moving forward with a grocery rebate, whether it's moving forward with dental benefits for low-income and middle-income families that can't offer those to their kids. These are things that Conservatives voted against. We will continue to be there. We're working with the large grocery companies to increase competition and stabilize food prices.
L'honorable député de La Prairie.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, Statistics Canada revealed last week that there were nearly 500,000 non-permanent residents in Quebec in July, an increase of more than 150,000 over a year ago. This increase is Ottawa's responsibility. We may be the most welcoming people in the world in Quebec, the most open to immigration, but at some point you've got to face facts. We just can't handle 500,000 non-permanent residents. Public services can't keep up. Will the government finally revisit its targets sensibly so we can settle these people properly? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know full well that immigration is essential to help businesses find workers they need, but also to grow our economy. We will continue to strengthen our system for the sake of communities all across the country, including Francophone communities. This is good not only for our economy, but also for the future of our communities. We will continue to work with the Government of Quebec to ensure that we can resettle people here and get them to work and make the country more prosperous for everyone. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec Immigration Minister, Christine Fréchette, has called on the federal government to wake up. She says these numbers are a game changer. Mr. Speaker, Quebec controls its permanent immigration, not its temporary immigration. That's up to the federal government. With 500,000 non-permanent residents in Quebec alone, the pressure is getting to be too much for our education system and our capacity to enculturate and house people. Will the government lower its targets? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would recommend to my friend that he listen to what businesses and universities and communities are saying all across Quebec. They need workers. They want to bring people in from all around the world, and they want to enculturate them and foster their success. We will continue to work hand in hand with the Government of Quebec to create a more prosperous future for all Quebecers and all Canadians.
The Honourable Member from Vancouver East.
Canadians are struggling to keep a roof over their heads. Whether you're a senior being rental evicted, someone who is unhoused in an encampment, or a young family dreaming of owning their own home. The Liberals claim they want to see more affordable homes built faster. Yet it is the Liberals who have rejected offers of municipal land and provincial and territorial money from British Columbia and Nunavut to build homes. So talk is cheap. Empty promises won't house people. Will the Prime Minister commit to funding these projects to build homes family desperately need?
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that recently, alongside British Columbia and the City of Vancouver, the member for Vancouver Centre announced the groundbreaking for the construction of 154 new affordable housing units close to transit. This new building in the heart of Davie Village will also house Community, a non-profit org providing access to safe and secure services for individuals and families living with HIV/AIDS. This is what we can accomplish when we work together, ensuring Vancouverites can live close to where they work and access the services they need.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. That's another completely out-of-touch answer, Mr. Speaker. Families renewing their mortgages in the next few months are heading straight for a wall. Liberal and Conservative inaction has resulted in the loss of over 1 million affordable housing units. And all the while, the government is giving the Bank of Canada the power to raise interest rates without worrying about the impact on people. That's the Liberal record. Families who can't even afford their own homes. It just doesn't make sense. Why hasn't the Prime Minister given the Bank of Canada a clearer mandate to avoid this crisis? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, here on this side of the House, we will always respect the independence of the Bank of Canada, but we know that Canadians are grappling with the cost of housing, and that's why we've taken action on a number of fronts. We eliminated the GST on new construction. More and more houses will be built more quickly by cooperating with the municipalities, and we're helping Canadians save on the purchase of a new home with a tax-free savings account for first home buyers. We would encourage all our partners to take bolder action to make housing more affordable.
Thornhill.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
We're at historic lows. That was the Prime Minister just 3 years ago. He told people to keep borrowing while his government kept spending. Now, the number of Canadians saying they're facing financial stress has jumped 20% in a single year. The National Payroll Institute found that 63% of working Canadians said they had nothing left at the end of the month, and 30% spend more than they make. They are calling it a national emergency. So when will they finally balance the budget so interest rates can come down and Canadians can keep more of their own money?
Mr. Speaker, in my first answer, let me just congratulate you in this historic role, historic for Canada. Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives recite trite and misleading talking points, our government is acting for Canadians. With Bill C-56, we are getting more homes built by lifting the GST on purpose-built rental, and we are acting to stabilize grocery prices with historic changes to competition law that will bring competition to the grocery sector.
L'honorable député de Thornhill.
This is the minister who misled Canadians when she said that interest rates would stay low for a long time. And now homeowners are bracing for the shock of when they have to renew their mortgages. That's what the Canadian banks are saying. And now there's another former bank governor raising alarm bells. David Dodge warns that the burden of past debts are catching up. Governments cannot spend their way out of the problems that she created. When the government spends money, the bank raises the interest rates. And when the rates go up, Canadians pay more for their mortgages. So will the NDP Liberal government finally listen to everyone or anyone, stop their spending so that Canadians can keep their homes?
L'honorable ministre des Finances et vice-premier ministre.
Mr. Speaker, the only people misleading Canadians are the Conservatives on that side of the House. The reality is Canada has the lowest deficit in the G7 and the lowest debt to GDP ratio. And, Mr. Speaker, our AAA rating has recently been reaffirmed by DBRS Morningstar. These are independent experts, Mr. Speaker, not Conservative partisans. We know we need to get more homes built. That's why we've lifted the GST on purpose-built rental and added another $20 billion to the financing CMHC has available for rental construction.
L'honorable député de Calgary Forest Lawn.
Canadians shouldn't have believed this finance minister when she said, borrow as much as you want. Interest rates will be low for a very long time. Because she turned around and threw hundreds of billions of dollars of fuel on the inflationary fire, giving Canadians the worst inflation in 40 years and the most rapid interest rate hikes not seen in the last 30 years. Anyone who took out a mortgage 5 years ago at 2% will now have to renew at 6 or 7%. That's an increase of more than 200%. Will this Prime Minister rein in his inflationary deficits so interest rates come down, or does he want people to start losing their homes?
Here, here.
L'honorable ministre.
Mr. Speaker, yet again, misleading comments from the Conservatives. The reality is Canada's AAA rating has been reaffirmed year after year that we have been in government. We have the lowest deficit in the G7 and the lowest debt to GDP ratio. We also know we are a growing country, and a growing country needs to build more homes faster. That is exactly what we are doing by lifting the GST on purpose-built rental, by making more financing available through CMHC, $200 billion for $20 billion for financing of new rental construction.
L'honorable député de Calgary Forest Lawn.
The rating she brags about came at the high cost of 1 in 5 Canadians skipping meals and 7 million Canadians visiting a food bank in a single month. She's completely out of touch, but in line with her incompetent government's legacy. This finance minister was doing victory laps 2 months ago, saying that she stopped inflation. It went up 43% since then. What did she think was going to happen when she added $1.2 billion of debt in the first quarter of this fiscal year alone? Will the Prime Minister rein in his inflationary spending, or does he think that too is not one of his responsibilities?
L'honorable ministre des Finances et vice-premier ministre.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are hitting new lows in this question period. Not only are they misleading, they are internally contradictory and incomprehensible. I think the member opposite just said that our AAA rating is disadvantageous to hardworking Canadians. I beg to differ, Mr. Speaker. Our AAA rating is a foundation for everything our government is doing to build more homes, to provide more support to hard-working Canadian middle-class families, Mr. Speaker. Time for the Conservatives to get that.
The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, according to a recent survey by the National Payroll Institute, nearly 2 out of 3 workers spend their entire take-home pay, and 30% are spending more than that. But we can help them by rejecting the second carbon tax, a tax that applies in Quebec and is supported by the Bloc. People are suffering and having trouble putting food on the table. It's a serious situation. Will the Prime Minister revisit his commitment to raise the carbon tax radically as the Bloc would have it?
The
Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind my honourable colleague that during the last election campaign, his party and those elected in his party campaigned in favor of a price on pollution. They just talk and we take action. That's the difference. And those taxes will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and those reductions will also generate investments of over $2 billion all across the country. That's the difference between us and them, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, when you talk about out of touch, that's what we're talking about. This minister is completely out of touch. with what life is like for people who are going to food banks. Food banks are overwhelmed. People can't get enough to eat. There are families in Montreal in his riding that have been turned away by the food banks because they didn't have enough food to provide. And unfortunately, this government and the Bloc supported the government in increasing the carbon tax. Will this government put aside its ideology and, for once, and help people in need? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what's out of touch in 2023 is a party that aspires to form government and doesn't have any policy on climate change. The official position of that party today is to deny the very existence of climate change. And yet this summer there were hundreds of people displaced all over the country, sometimes not just once or twice, but 3 times because of record forest fires. There have been incredible floods all across the country, and the Conservatives have nothing to say about climate change. Before I give the floor to the next honourable member, I'd just like to remind members that there's just one conversation at a time, and that's very important. Thank you. The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, $117,000 worth of dry cleaning for the Governor General since 2018. Her laundry must be pretty darn clean. $117,000 on top of $2.7 million in travel, $71,000 in limousine rides, royal expenses. At the rate she's spending, Mr. Speaker, it's only the cleaning that's running dry, because she's certainly not short of cash. With a salary of $350K and an in-house cleaning service, she should be able to pay the difference out of her own pocket. When will the Prime Minister sort this out? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, clearly, every dollar spent must be spent responsibly and conscientiously, and we will do the necessary auditing. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, Radio-Canada reveals that the RCMP has been hiring unilingual Anglophones for its bilingual senior positions. They don't speak a word of French, and they're not taking courses either. So there's no chance of these people being qualified for their positions, not today, not tomorrow. This is a flagrant violation of the Official Languages Act, and a violation so accepted in Ottawa that it's the RCMP, the police, who are getting caught breaking the law. Will the minister do something? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, if you don't mind, I'd like to congratulate you on your election as Speaker. And to answer the question, the answer is yes. Our government is always taking action to ensure that federal agencies comply with the Official Languages Act. We expect that of the RCMP. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm meeting with the RCMP Commissioner tomorrow, and clearly I will be raising this important issue because we believe strongly in the Official Languages Act. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, these stories of contempt for French in the federal government, since the reform of official languages, these stories are supposed to be a thing of the past. Now, Francophones are watching closely to see what this new minister is going to do. Since the reform of official languages, this is the first flagrant case of a federal agency thinking it can still ignore French in Ottawa. Will the minister prove to the entire federal apparatus that those days are over now? Or will he prove that it's still okay to run roughshod over the French language? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to congratulate you on your new role here in the House. We're celebrating the modernization of the Official Languages Act, and let's be clear, let's talk Turkey. Bilingualism is a fundamental principle of this country, of this government, and we expect the RCMP to live up to those principles and that bilingual positions be filled with bilingual candidates.
L'honorable député de Louis Saint-Laurent.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, hundreds of families are being affected by the housing crisis. TVA reported on a situation the other day of a woman with her 3 kids having to leave their housing to go live in a garage. In a garage, Mr. Speaker, in a G7 country. It makes no sense. The woman said it was hell living there. And what's the Liberal government proposing to do? To create a new carbon tax. And even the Bloc agrees with that. Does anyone think it makes any sense to create a new tax when hundreds of thousands of Canadian families are struggling? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me begin by offering my congratulations and all the success in your new role. With respect to the honourable member's question, I won't diminish the very serious challenges that families are facing across this country. In order to address Canada's national housing crisis, we're taking a number of different measures. We are investing in affordable housing in a way that no government has over the course of my entire life. In addition, in order to contribute to the ability for builders to build more homes, we're cutting taxes and changing the way that cities build homes through the Housing Accelerator Fund. When I compare our plan to theirs, you can trust that we will get more homes built, and that's been confirmed by finance officials at committee.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Liberal government, the average house price has doubled. The Prime Minister wasn't me. After 8 years of this Liberal government, the cost of rent has doubled. This Liberal Prime Minister wasn't me. After 8 years of this Liberal government, it now takes 25 years to save for a down payment for a home. This Liberal Prime Minister wasn't me. This Liberal Prime Minister isn't worth the cost, Mr. Speaker. And if he's not responsible for anything, will he just get out of the way so Conservatives can fix what he broke?
Mr. Speaker, it's telling in the member's question that no ideas on how we can build more homes have been introduced by the Conservatives. With respect, we are moving forward with a plan that is cutting taxes for home builders. We are moving forward to increase the amount of money that we're going to contribute to help cities change the way that they build homes. As I have members opposite yell, we put a bill forward, let's dig in on what it actually includes. A plan to raise taxes on home builders and cut funding for home building. Mr. Speaker, that will not lead to more homes getting built. We have a plan to address the housing crisis. I hope the Conservatives join us.
I'd like to remind members once again that only one member has the floor at the time. If you are patient to wait for your time for the question, we'll obviously allow you the opportunity to do so. And even if you look away from the Speaker, I can sort of guess where it's coming from. The honourable member from Dufferin-Caledon.
Mr. Speaker, it's amazing for a government that has accomplished so little for that minister to be so proud. What he talks about is 5,000 units that are going to be built. CMHC says we need to build 3 million more units than we normally build. That 5,000 works out to 0.0016%, and he stands here bragging like he's accomplished something. But their lack of action has consequences, and they're not worth the cost. Paula from BC is 71 and retired, and she's saying she's facing a 75% increase in rent. If they actually can't do anything to fix it, will they get out of the way so our leader will fix what's broken?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with great respect, my honourable colleague deeply mischaracterizes both the nature of the plan and the impact that it's going to have. He's clearly only reading one sub-bullet when he's looking to the measures that will build 5,000 homes. I'd point him to the estimates that the cut on GST for apartment construction in this country would have, showing that we expect to see up to 300,000 homes built. I point him to the recent change to the Canada Mortgage Bond Program, which is going to add 30,000 homes a year over the next decade, 300,000 homes. Mr. Speaker, I could continue on, but if he actually reviews the measures we have put together in their totality, he will see it dwarfs the effort they're putting forward.
The honourable member from Haldimand, Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this Prime Minister, millions of Canadians are struggling to pay the rent. Last month, TVA Nouvelle reported that a single mother with 3 children was forced to abandon her mold-infested apartment and live in a garage because she cannot afford to pay the rent anymore. She described the experience as hell. This Prime Minister just is not worth the cost. What is this NDP, Liberal government, going to say to this single mother of 3 who cannot afford to pay the rent anymore and who's descending into depression?
L'honorable vice-première ministre et ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, what we're going to say to that single mother is you cannot afford the Conservatives and their austerity that will make your life worse. What we're going to say is our government has helped to lift 2.3 million Canadians out of poverty. What we're going to say is our early learning and childcare program has cut childcare fees by 50% across the country already. We're down to $10 a day in 4 provinces. We will take no lessons from the Conservatives when it comes to helping the most vulnerable.
We're doing very well, and I would ask the Member of Parliament from Grand Prairie, Mackenzie, to please wait for his turn and to give the example to all his colleagues going forward. The honourable member from New Westminster, Burnaby.
Yet another report has come out saying that the number of Canadians who are in dire financial situations is jumping dramatically. More than half of all Canadians are now living paycheck to paycheck and are overwhelmed by debt. This is a national emergency. Liberals must help Canadians who are struggling to get by. Conservatives are sure never going to help them. And Liberals need to get serious about tackling corporate greed that is jacking up prices for everyone. Canadians need a crackdown on price gouging, and they need a windfall tax on the biggest profiteers. When will Liberals finally take action?
L'honorable vice-première ministre et ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I certainly agree with the member opposite that the most vulnerable among us can expect nothing but pain and cuts from the Conservatives. I also agree with him that we need to be there to support Canadians. That is why I was so proud to be there with my colleague, the Minister of Industry, when we said to Canada's grocers, you have to stabilize prices. We need to be there for Canadians. And that is why our government has imposed a COVID dividend on our banks and insurers to pay for the price of supporting Canadians in those difficult days.
L'honorable député de franglais là, l'honorable député de Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, young kids are going to experience the worst impacts of the climate crisis, inheriting the mess made by governments today. The Canadian Climate Institute just released a report showing Canada's emissions are going up when we desperately need them to go down. The Liberals like to talk about climate change, but they've been dragging their feet on capping oil and gas emissions, prioritizing the profits of rich CEOs over our children's future. So can the minister explain to kids who are watching why 8 years in, on this government's watch, are Canada's emissions still going up?
L'honorable ministre de l'Environnement et des Changements climatiques.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my honourable colleague for her question. I would also like to remind her that Canada is the only G20 country that has eliminated fossil fuel subsidies. No one else in the G20 has done that, and we've done that 2 years earlier than all of the other G20 partners. Since 2015, we've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions, Mr. Speaker, by 53 million tons. That's the equivalent of removing from our roads 11 million gas-powered vehicles, Mr. Speaker. We're the only country in the world who's going to put a cap on the emissions of the oil and gas sector. No one else is doing this. This is how we're fighting climate change and helping Canadians with affordability. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, last year the people of Pakistan experienced the most devastating floods in history, wiping out the critical infrastructure. 1,739 people died, including 647 children, and additional 12,867 were injured. While Pakistan is in process of rebuilding, they have also helped house refugees fleeing Afghanistan. Can the Minister of International Development please share with this House how Canada is supporting efforts to rebuild communities in Pakistan and Afghan refugees?
Good question. L'honorable ministre du Développement international.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I begin, I'd like to really take the opportunity as a member of the Black Canadian community, to really congratulate you for making history as Canada's first Black Canadian speaker. I want to thank the member for his important question and advocacy on a really important issue. Pakistan has faced tremendous challenges with some of the most devastating floods of the region. While they rebuild, they've also stepped up to help Afghan refugees. That's why we announced $14 million to support them, to provide health and essential services for the refugees and the host community. Canada will always be there, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Foothills.
The Liberal NDP government increases the carbon tax on farmers who grow the food, on truckers who transport it, on manufacturers who process it, on retailers who sell it. But oh no, these higher taxes certainly don't impact the price of food when Canadians buy it. They don't believe them. They don't believe them when 7 million Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. They don't believe them when food bank usage in Alberta is up 70%. They don't believe them when families can't put turkey on the table. How many families are going to be relying on food banks for the Thanksgiving dinner because of this Prime Minister's inflationary carbon tax?
L'honorable ministre de l'Environnement et du Changement climatique.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind my honourable colleague that the Poultry Association of Canada, the grain growers, the canola growers have all committed to be net zero by 2050. And interestingly enough, every time this member, which I respect, stands in the House to talk about the impacts of climate change, he never talks about the impacts on farmers, the billions of dollars that droughts, flooding, pests are costing our farmers all across the country, Mr. Speaker, from coast to coast, all across the country, that we never hear about that. They have no solution to help our farmers fight climate change and help them with affordability, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, here is the impact on farmers. I had a third-generation farmer from BC call me saying in 3 months they're going to lose their farm. 4 of our neighbors have already done so, and another one is selling their cows and their quota. Why? Because after 8 years of this Liberal NDP government, they can't afford farm-killing carbon taxes and higher interest rates. Exactly. Farmers can't afford it when diesel goes up 70 cents a litre. Farmers can't afford to pay more for feed, fuel, and higher interest rates. And Canadians certainly can't afford to pay more for food. So if they really want to defend the family farm and lower prices for Canadians, why will they not cancel their inflationary carbon tax?
L'honorable ministre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the first thing I'd like to do is congratulate you on your appointment as Speaker of the House of Commons. And I thank my honourable colleague for his question, but I think he fully understands what's taking place with climate change. On Prince Edward Island, we had Fiona. It destroyed burns. It killed cattle. I visited Western Canada. Bales of straw at $300 a bale because of the drought. And not further away, there's floods because of climate change. Farmers fully understand the cost of climate change, and they're in the front row in order to make sure that we protect the farms and the farmland, and will continue to do so, Mr.
Speaker.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable, rather. Well, Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this Liberal Prime Minister, the sad reality, as described by the director of a food bank in Montreal, is that it's a real disaster. Last month, 6 families could not get food assistance. That's the first time in 37 years that we had to limit our resources. But the Bloc Québécois doesn't seem to care. They want to apply Carbon Tax 2.0 to Canadian and Quebec families. Yes, the Bloc Québécois voted for Carbon Tax 2.0. They could have opposed it, but they instead are supporting it. If you vote for the Bloc, you're going to pay a high price. Are the Prime Minister and his partners in the Bloc proud of radically making Quebecers poorer?
L'honorable ministre.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, of course, I am not Francophone or from Quebec, but I deeply respect the Quebec nation, which was the first part of our country to have a climate plan. And which clearly understands the importance of the climate and our environment. That's the reality in Quebec. Mr. Speaker, our government is here to support the most vulnerable among us throughout the country. And we are working with our colleague, the Minister for Industry, on this. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Well, the way Liberals do things is pretty simple. The Prime Minister is making Quebecers pay a second half through the back door. It's going to make the cost of fuel go up by 20 cents a litre. On June 5th, the Bloc Québécois could have voted against the tax, but instead they joined in with the Liberals in favor of the tax. Tomorrow, the Bloc could make up for that and vote against Carbon Tax 2.0. Will the Liberals let their allies in the Liberal Bloc coalition have a free vote? Will they choose the Liberals or Quebecers in the Bloc Québécois?
Order. L'honorable ministre de l'Environnement et des Changements climatiques.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to remind my honourable colleague that Quebec is not only the first province in Canada to have put a price on pollution, but in fact the first jurisdiction in North America to have done so. And that has continued under a variety of governments of all stripes, except the Conservatives, who disagree with this, because their party's official position is that they don't even believe that climate change is an issue. The difference between them and us is that we believe in climate change, and we also believe in supporting Canadians during this difficult time. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the Conservatives keep defending oil and gas companies, we will speak for Quebec. And we know that federal businesses are still showing that they don't care about French. CN once again wants to move 50 Quebec jobs out west. Jobs in customer service, according to the union. And that's bad news for the 50 workers in Quebec who might lose their jobs. And it's also bad news for customer service in French. If CN decides to send these jobs to unilingual Anglophone provinces in the West, does the Minister of Transport think that it's safe for CN to reduce its capacity to serve Francophones?
L'honorable ministre des Transports.
Merci.
The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to just take the opportunity to ask the Conservatives to stop beating up on the Bloc Québécois. They're already struggling. Don't kick them while they're down. And I will say that our government will always stand up for official languages. We don't have just one in this country. There are two, English and French, equal. The Honourable Member.
À l'ordre. À l'ordre. À l'ordre. L'honorable député de Pierre Boucher, les...
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you very much. The Minister of Transport seems to think this is a joke, but Quebecers are worried. Whenever we talk about language issues at CN, it's because it's going off the rails. In 2020, it moved a control center from Montreal to the west. And last year, it didn't have a single Francophone on its board. And now it wants to move 50 jobs from Quebec to Western Canada. And when we speak about questions of language, it's also a matter of safety. Does the minister agree with these job cuts? And does he believe that CN has to offer services in French? Yes or no?
L'honorable ministre.
Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Minister. As my colleagues in the Bloc know very well, Mr. Speaker, this year we passed Bill C-13 on the modernization of official languages. That includes new regulations for federally regulated businesses. We will do the work to ensure that we have a Francophone presence from coast to coast to coast. That is in the regulations we will pass, and CN must take decisions that respect the law and regulations.
L'honorable député de South Shore St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 8 years, mortgages have doubled, rent has doubled, yet this NDP Liberal government is quadrupling carbon taxes. A report for Parliament by the Parliamentary Budget Officer on carbon taxes states that Nova Scotians will pay $1,500 more in taxes, thanks to the Atlantic Liberals who voted 23 times for these taxes.
Right.
This Prime Minister is just not worth the cost. As Atlantic Canadians are getting their oil tanks filled for the fall, will the Prime Minister axe a tax so that they can afford to heat, eat, and house themselves?
Hear, hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, the honourable member began his question talking about some of the housing challenges that are very real. I question why he's supporting a plan that is going to raise taxes on home builders and cut funding for home building. When it comes to the environment, I'm curious why he is yet to put forward a plan that will actually do anything meaningful to reduce emissions. I'm curious, Mr. Speaker, why he aligns with a party that opposed raising taxes on the wealthiest 1% and cutting for the middle tax. Mr. Speaker, with respect on the environment, on housing, and on affordability, we have a plan, and it's on this side of the House.
The honourable member from Coast of Bays Central, Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, a recent poll in Newfoundland and Labrador showed that 84% of those surveyed chose the cost of living as a top issue facing them. After many conversations with folks in my riding, this comes as no surprise. And most say the inflationary carbon tax is making life unaffordable. In the last 8 years, Atlantic Liberal MPs voted 28 times in support of carbon tax. Will these Atlantic Liberal MPs vote for our Conservative motion to axe the tax, or will they follow their master?
L'honorable ministre.
Mr. Speaker, I got 75,000 masters and they live in northern Nova Scotia, and they're telling me that they want the government to come up with a plan that's going to reduce emissions so we can protect the environment for future generations. They're telling me that they want me to stand up and support Bill C-49, which is actually going to establish an offshore energy industry in the province where we have the resource and have the ability to do the right thing for our planet and create good-paying jobs at home. I will defend good-paying jobs at home, I will defend affordability, and I won't compromise the need to protect our environment like that member would.
We're doing so very well today. The honourable member from Coast of Bays Central North Shore. Notre Dame, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, it's ironic how my honourable colleague across the way references masters. I think it's time that this Liberal government realize that it's the servant, not the master.
Here.
If these Atlantic Liberal MPs talk to folks in their ridings like I do, they don't need a poll to tell them what people are feeling. After 8 years, they know this Liberal Prime Minister isn't worth the cost. Common sense Conservatives have introduced yet another motion to axe the carbon tax. So I ask again, will these Atlantic Liberals support their constituents or follow their master?
L'honorable ministre des Finances et vice-premier ministre.
Mr. Speaker, this summer I had the privilege of spending some time with some of the hard-working people of Newfoundland and Labrador. And I can tell you what they need the most. A good paying job for the incredibly skilled, incredibly hardworking people of that province, a good paying job at home. And that is what our green plan will provide. Newfoundland and Labrador is going to become the hydrogen capital of the world, the wind power capital of the world, and the clean nickel from Voisey's Bay will power the Northvolt battery plant in Montreal. That's our climate.
The Honourable Member from Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, Indigenous peoples have always been the guardians of our lands, waters, and ice. So it's completely natural that they be at heart of Canada's initiatives and other countries' initiatives to protect nature and to meet our targets for conservation by 2030. Can the Minister of the Environment tell this House about the benefits that will be generated by additional investments in the Indigenous Guardian program? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her question and for her hard work both on reconciliation and on protecting our environment and nature. The Indigenous Guardians program is an international model. We've heard from all sorts of places around the globe to ask how this program could be reproduced elsewhere. And thanks to the investment my colleague and I announced last month, there are now Indigenous Guardians in 25% of communities throughout the country, and we are hoping to make that 100%. And from now on, it is the program itself that will manage itself.
Then I have Député de Lethbridge.
Thank you. They said Bill C-11 was not about censorship. They said that it was just simply about going after big tech giants, making them pay their fair share. But now new regulations were pushed through on Friday. Sneaky, sneaky. However, people are paying attention and Canadians are aware that in fact their voices are being censored. A podcast registry. Innovative, hey? Now, when it comes to attacking freedom, this government just can't help itself. They are absolutely committed to censoring what we can see, what we can say, and what we can hear online. Now, why is this government, just curious, so hell-bent on censoring people's freedom of speech?
Then I have le ministre du Patrimoine canadien.
Mr. Speaker, it's simply false. What the bill doesn't do is regulate users or people that produce podcasts. Exactly. What the bill does is make sure that tech giants pay their fair share, such as Apple, Spotify, Netflix. What it does is support our Canadian creators, and what it does is making sure that Canadian stories are heard and that our creators have a voice online. Instead of kneeling in front of tech billionaires, the leader of the Conservatives should stand up for artists and our creative sector.
Then I have Député.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Congratulations on your speakership, Mr. Speaker. After 8 years of this Liberal government, we see it trying to control freedom of expression in Canada. Too much power to the CRTC, which will limit Canadians' ability to share what they think on social media. This government is going too far and going much too hard when it comes to limiting freedom of speech. If this is not Liberal control, Mr. Speaker, then what is it?
Then I have ministre du Patrimoine canadien.
The Honourable Minister of Heritage. Mr. Speaker, this is simply false. This legislation does not limit users or people who produce podcasts. What it does do is ensure that web giants like Apple, Spotify, or Netflix will have to pay their fair share here in Canada. It also ensures that we are adequately supporting our Canadian creators and ensuring that they have a voice online. Instead of catering to these web giants, the leader of the Conservatives should help our Canadian creators.
Then I have Député de Banff-Airdrie.
Canadian veterans have spent their lives serving and sacrificing for our freedoms, and they were left to watch in horror as a Nazi soldier was recognized in this House. When veterans ask for basic care, the Prime Minister tells them they're asking for more than he can give. And now he would have veterans believe that basic vetting for Nazis is also asking more than he can give. So when will this Prime Minister finally take accountability and apologize to veterans?
Avant qu'on procède à la...
Before going to the Minister's answer, I would just like to remind the member for New Westminster Burnaby to leave space for people asking their questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a former page and as a former page yourself, I would like to congratulate you for your new appointment and also welcome the new cohort of pages that I think we haven't sufficiently saluted and thanked very hard for their hard work. Mr. President, the former speaker has made it very clear that he alone was responsible for inviting this individual to the House and recognizing him. It was his initiative and no other parliamentarians were involved.
L'honorable député de St. John's-Est.
Monday marked National Seniors Day, an occasion for Canadians to celebrate the profound contribution of seniors in our homes, our communities, and our workplaces. However, for some, the rising cost of living is making it more difficult to make ends meet. Can the Minister of Seniors please share with our government, please share how our government is ensuring that all seniors can enjoy a secure and dignified retirement?
L'honorable ministre.
Mr. Speaker, and if I could just add my congratulations to somebody who has known you for 35 years since we were young students at Forum for Young Canadians. We always knew you'd go to places, and indeed you did. And while it's a few years off for you and I, it is good to know that we raised old age security by 10% for seniors, 75 and older. We raised the guaranteed income supplement by up to $947 annually for single low-income seniors. We launched the Age Well at Home initiative to help more seniors age in their homes and their communities. Our work is far from done, but as Minister for Seniors, my priority remains affordability, affordability, and affordability. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Vancouver-Kingsway.
Well, Mr. Speaker, speaking of affordability, Canadians have seen what happens when Loblaws is left unchecked, price fixing and gouging. Now, Galen Weston is turning his sights on healthcare by expanding Shoppers Drug Mart's private clinics. Experts are warning that huge corporations put profits before patients. It's government's job to prevent this. What is the Liberal plan to ensure rich CEOs like Galen Weston don't gouge Canadians for health care like they do with food?
L'honorable ministre de la Santé.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and let me add my voice in congratulating you. It's wonderful to see you in that role, and I'll say to my honourable colleague that the ensuring that our public health care system remains public and that it is centred in making sure that everybody who needs health care is provided it, regardless of their circumstance, is at the core of everything that we do. We've taken historic action on reducing drug prices. We're going to continue that. In fact, when you look at the Pan-Canadian Pricing Alliance, we've been able to see almost $3.5 billion in savings for Canadians in reducing drug costs. We've taken historic action on patent drugs and other things.
L'honorable député de Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, Monday was the 5th anniversary of the brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi by Saudi officials, yet Liberals stayed silent. And no wonder. Under this government, arms have continued to flow to Saudi Arabia. Despite the war in Yemen, despite serious human rights violations, and despite the murders of hundreds of Ethiopian migrants. Canadians need to know that their government is not complicit in human rights abuses. Does this minister even know if Canadian-made sniper rifles were used by the Saudis against Ethiopian asylum seekers? Does the minister have any idea where Canadian
L'honorable ministre des Affaires étrangères.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for an important question. I would like also to congratulate you. Félicitations, mon cher ami. Ça me fait plaisir de te voir.
Congratulations, my dear friend. I'm so happy to see you in that chair.
To answer my colleague's question, of course, we will always abide by a strong arms export treaty where we respect human rights. We'll always make sure that that's the case and that end users also are taken into account. And I look forward to working with her on this very issue. Thank you.
And that brings to a close oral questions today. I would like to thank all members for being on their best behavior and making their new president get settled in a little bit with this new car. No dents. No dents. Point of order. Point of order.